I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man.
It's fairly safe to say that that was pretty much me when this arrived. This being, as if you didn't already know, because it's kind of like the title of the video, and there's a picture of it on the screen grab, but in case that kind of slipped by you, this is the brand new-ish, in that it came out a month or two ago, Tamiya 1/32 scale de Havilland Mosquito fighter bomber. It's funny when we see the letters F and B, how our minds work nowadays. Mk.VI, which has come all the way from sunny California to sunny Fife, courtesy of the Kit Maker Network and the delicious Jim Starkweather. I won't even explain that. Who has given me the opportunity once again to review and build this for you and for me, not necessarily in that order. And I thought, obviously, well, I mean, you knew I was getting it. In fact, I've already shown you, haven't I? Yeah. But I thought we would do a sprue tour, so you can see just what it's all about. But this time I thought, well, first of all, instead of doing the thing where I go, come and have a look, and I then cut and reposition the camera above here and I go through the sprue, I'm not going to do that because, frankly, the multitasking that's involved is just, well, it's overwhelming. Trying to keep the sprue in frame whilst speaking some semblance of sense, I'm not going to do that. What I've already done is I've been through the sprues. In fact, I've got them all labelled with the, the thing with the Tamiya tape and put the letter on it so you can easily find it. Because I mean, when you have sprue Z, you kind of have to go down that route. And I'll cut to gorgeous, sexy sprue shots as I'm going through the many, many sprues that are in here. And also, I thought, just to liven things up a little bit, we're going to have
the Making Models Again drinking game. Not suitable for those aged under 18 in the UK or 21 anywhere else. Terms and conditions might apply if there were any.
Now, how's that going to work, you ask? Well, you know how these things generally work is you're watching a movie where a character is known for doing a certain thing on a regular basis. Be it a Die Hard movie, and every time Bruce Willis says yippee-ki-yay, blah 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 blah, you take a drink. Or if it's Game of Thrones, every time somebody gets their out, you take a drink. Well, every time I say the word nice, you take a drink. Every time I use the word sublime, you take 2 drinks. And every time I go, actually, on second thoughts, I don't want anybody dying of alcohol poisoning, so we'll just stick with the first 2. But to help me, and in theory to also help your livers, I have printed off 3 pages from an online thesaurus, all the synonyms and antonyms and goodness knows what names for the word nice. Now, I am going to give myself 5 free uses of the word and 2 free uses of the word sublime. But other than that, every time I do say that word, you guys can take a wee swallow, but I will ensure that that won't be as often as it typically is. But before we get to the sprues, I suppose you're probably going to want to know about the box. Well, it's big, it's glossy, it has a picture of a mosquito on the front, and that's pretty much about it, really. But for those of you who really do kind of want to know what is on the box, it is actually some beautiful artwork, I have to say. It's very atmospheric, really, isn't it, with the snowy British wasteland, although that does look like a modern motorway. I don't think we had roads like that back in the 40s, but anyway, as you would expect from Tamiya's 1/32 series, we've got some of the other variants there on the side, as well as the one on, that's the 3 variants that you get. And on the other side, there is some Japanese writing and some very, very sort of clean builds of the kit, probably by that chap Brett Green. look, there's another picture of a mosquito on that side, and there's another picture of a mosquito on that side. The bottom part is basically white cardboard, in case you're interested. Other uses, it could be used for lighting fires, putting other things in, propping up tables, and keeping stuff in. But anyway, let's have a look at what this thing consists of, shall we? Okay. As I say, I've already been through this kit to label everything, but that's the flat stuff. So we'll come to that later. Hang on, I'll need my leading sheet here later. So first up, we've got Sprue B, and it looks very nice. That's one, and it's the wings, or one wing anyway, because I think there's two Sprue Bs. Oh no, there's an A and a B. I beg your pardon. Of course, the thing is with the Mosquito, it was built primarily of wood, finished with wood. So there's not a lot of surface detail, unlike the Corsair, which was literally riddled with rivets and panel lines. The Mosquito is very, very plain by comparison, pun intended. To the extent that there's almost no surface detail whatsoever other than the occasional little hatch and the odd bit of detail, like rivet detail and line detail, but other than that, very, very, very plain, which should be quite interesting come the weathering. I'm not quite sure what variant I'm going to do, whether, again, that whole thing with the Tamiya decals, I don't like, especially at 1/32 scale. I would like to paint my markings. There's a fair bit of stencil detail with it, but again, I didn't use a single stencil on the Corsair, so you can kind of get away with it a wee bit. But I would like to maybe paint them, but depending on what decal sets might be available. I think there's a Fleet Air Arm one. There's one that's actually based, or that was based in Banff, up near Aberdeen, so again, it's kind of close to home, so I might like to do one of those ones. Or perhaps one of the Knight variants. I don't know if there is a Fighter Bomber Knight variant, but I'll have a look. I haven't done that yet, but anyway. So that's A and B, which are the wings, and they do look quite amiable. Because there's an awful lot of detail so far. We're only on the first couple of sprues, I suppose, but that's the wings. So, put the box out. In there. Up next is Sprue C, which are the fuselage halves. Again, utterly, utterly plain, but no less delightful. I should really be scoring these off so that I don't use them again, should I? Yeah, anyway. And we have some bulkheads. They're not as intricate as perhaps you'd maybe think. But of course it depends on what the original aircraft was like. So I imagine Tamiya have faithfully reproduced everything in friendly detail. Sorry, good detail. Lovely detail. But other than that, not an awful lot to see here. So that's Sprue C. So that's A, B and C. And oddly enough, we've got D next, which would appear to be some control surfaces and the horizontal stabilizers. Again, completely and utterly devoid of any surface detail. That being said, Tamiya's plastic does have a charming feel to it. It has that lovely satin, silky texture to it, which really does take the paint nice. Oh, that's two. That's two. Okay. I have heard a lot of people complaining about ejector pin marks, but again, I don't see. Obviously, you're not going to see it on the outer surfaces, but plenty of them on the inside that do seem to be. You can see variations in the actual texture of the plastic. Now, I don't know if that's going to. I mean, as I rub my thumb over it, I can feel something. I don't know exactly what I'm feeling, so I don't know if that's going to represent when we put paint on there. Generally, the rule of thumb when you're filling seams or doing any sort of alteration to a model, if you can feel it, you're going to see it. And I can feel something there, but we'll see. So that's Sprue D. We have Sprue K, which has instrument panel and what appears to be the sort of, I think these are going to help support the wings. This will cut right through the fuselage and help support the wings. We do have the seats here, and Tamiya have gone to quite, oh, let's say lengths. They've reproduced the cushioning on the seat with all the creases and wrinkles that you would expect of a vinyl seat cover, and that is quite classy. And here we've got throttle quadrants and various other cockpit. Appears to be the butt part of the, I'm assuming, a flare gun. They do, but we do have some nice little, that's 3 touches here. Yeah, I do like that seat, I must admit, I do like that seat with the cushion. It's something I've tried to represent with Milliput in the past, but on to Sprue Z, or is that Sprue N? It could be Sprue N. I really should put a little line under it, shouldn't I? Which has propellers, and I think that would be the rudder, and we appear to have a jet coming in from somewhere. Let's see if I can see it. What is it? Come on, show yourself. I can hear you. Oh, there it is. It is a two Typhoons coming into land at Lookers. Lookers is now an army base. It's no longer RAF Lookers. It's the Royal Engineers that are now based there. All the Typhoons are up at Lossiemouth. But every now and again we do get touch and goes, which is presumably what that is. Right, back to the Mosquito. As I say, we've got the propellers here, 2 types. There's a sort of a paddle type and a sort of pointier type. The propeller hubs, and again, you know, I can see ejector pin marks on the inside that are being represented by a difference in, I don't know if it's texture, but there's a difference in tone on the outer skin, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes of that. Right, this is, oh no, that was Sprue Z, this is, oh no, wait a minute, that's the same one, it's got the propellers. Oh, we've just done that one, haven't we? But I think that was Sprue N, because the N and the Z look similar, don't they? Turn the Z on the side. Right, this is Sprue T, which has the forward fuselage halves, and I think the canopy framing. One of the real nice touches that Tamiya have done on this is the internal framework of the canopy is represented in styrene, and the clear part sits over that, so you don't have to worry about painting the inner frame, because it's a separate thing altogether. And the inside of the fuselage, I'm not 100% familiar with the Mosquito, but it seems to have a lot of disc-shaped things on the inside. I don't know what they relate to or refer to, but there are dozens of them on the inside, and this appears to be, I think, it's them when they do that thing where they come right round and this is Budweiser, of all things. I was planning on being sick later on, so I just thought I'd hasten the progress of that. This, I think they're like, does this thing have, what's a fighter bomber variant, so it might have a bomb bay, does it? I don't know. But if you hold this up to the light, I don't know if you can see that, again we'll cut to the sexy Sprue shots, you'll be able to see how thin Tamiya have moulded the plastic. It's borderline translucent. Some fascinating little pieces of plastic on here. I have absolutely no idea what they are or where they go, but I dare say, oh, there's the gun ports, which are magnificent. Some nice, how many is that? 4. Some comely rivet detail. Now, this has actually been quite a talking point with this kit. This is Sprue J, of which there are 2. The wheels or the tyres to be more precise. Typically you'll get, with most kits, two halves of a tyre that go together, and then you have that god-awful seam line that you have to get rid of. Now that's fine if it's a smooth tyre, smooth rubber, but if it's, especially like the what do you call it, I just built the Mustang, or the Thunderbolt, where you've got that diamond tread pattern, especially if it's, in fact the Corsair which we got vinyl tyres for on the Tamiya kit, vinyl has that seam line, as all plastic mouldings do. They have the seam, the moulds come together, and you've got where the moulds come together, you get the seam line. And vinyl tyres are an absolute nightmare to try and remove those seam lines, especially when it goes within the tread pattern, which is still there on the Corsair. All I did was compacted it full of, well, you know, pigments to make it look like it was compacted full of mud to hide it, because I couldn't think of any other way of getting rid of it, to be honest. It's not like you could sand them down. Now they've obviously taken that on board, Tamiya, because this time, and they're weighted as well, the tyres are represented by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 separate parts. The tread pattern is actually made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 separate sections that then fit onto the tyre. So you've got no seam lines to worry about, and you're laughing, basically. And I do like that touch. Granted, they're big wheels, so it's probably easier to do on something like this than it would be on, oh, well, I don't know, any bigger than the Corsair. Probably not. Shut up, Gary. And we appear to have engine bearers as well. I kind of hoped that, I mean, I knew that you'd have a Merlin engine to deal with here, and I kind of hoped that Tamiya would say, right, you get one Merlin engine if you want to show it open, and the other one's just all closed up. No, they gave you the two Merlin engines, two full Merlin engines, so there's going to be a fair bit of work to do there. I don't know, I think I would actually prefer just one to be shown, so if I can maybe figure out a way of using the cowling covers and not bother installing the other Merlin, maybe the way they've designed it, I don't know, that they have to attach to this and there's no way around it. Oh, I'm sure we can figure some way out, just so that it's just nice to have one covered and one open, and that's kind of like what I'm wanting to do. But if I have to build two, I have to build two. First world problems, eh? So that was Sprue J's. Sprue's J, I should say. This is Sprue H, of which again there is two of, dos. And that would be the Merlin engine cylinder blocks and crankcase. Again, absolutely exquisite and excellently moulded, elegant and divine. And very, very classy. But two of them. The reason I'm saying that is that when I did the Spitfire and I did all the plumbing and all the ignition leads and all that sort of crap, it took a while. And when I'm modelling, if something's repetitive, it tends to put me off. So if I'm having to wire two engines, I just don't want to sort of take the risk of getting sort of, you know, losing interest in the build. So that's why I want to just concentrate all my efforts onto one engine and then leave the other one covered, if at all possible, as I say. But some graceful moulding here, I have to say, and that is right on. Oh, right on, yeah. Right on. That's what it says, right on. It also says what the doctor ordered. Oh, a different page or something here. Well, it's using the word befitting as opposed to the N word, but anyway. So that would be the Merlin engines on Sprue's K. Sprue. Now this is something Tamiya did that confused me with the Corsair, is this one piece of plastic here is actually P, Q and R. There's R, this is P, and that is Q. So it's quite cheeky. It's 3 sprues in one. Appears to be parts of the Merlin, and I think guns with drilled barrels. Mind you, at 1/32 scale and being Tamiya, you would kind of expect that anyway. And various pipes and bits and bobs. Beautifully small parts, and what's important when it comes to a small part is that the sprue gate be as small as possible. what was it? Was it the Goshawk? That kinetic Goshawk. Some of the sprue gates were basically the same size as the part and kind of were half swallowing the part. So I mean, you're almost sculpting the part out of just this lump of styrene. Obviously this is Tamiya and we don't get that sort of thing here. So yeah, very gorgeous pieces here. Some pipe work again. It's going to be interesting to see if they've improved on the Merlin from the Spitfire. I can't really see how, but as I say, it will be interesting to see. Sprue V and also Sprue... there's Sprue Z, so that was obviously Sprue N. This is Sprue Z. Sprue Z has the pilots and the navigator, sorry, the pilot and the navigators. There's Navigator A and Navigator B. We have one guy who can either be sitting next to the pilot, or we have one guy who's about to climb up the ladder, should we decide to do that. And again, Tamiya, I know they're good at figures, but these look... I don't think you would get any better if it were resin. And you then ask yourself, well, if that's the case, if they could do that with figures, why can't they do that with everything else? Because these are handsome and ravishing. Oh, no, wait a minute, hang on, I better change that. These are pleasing and marvellous to look at. Actually, it says good looking there. Again, we won't use that. Exquisite. That's the one we're looking for. These are exquisitely moulded. There is no other word really to describe these. You've got one guy holding a glove, and I noticed something on the decal sheet which we'll come to, which is what this part is for, but we'll come to that later. We have some control surfaces again. That's why you really need to label the sprues, because you know, one step of the instructions will have things from all over the place. Normally you've got 3 or 4 sprues, so you can kind of navigate your way around them. When you've got this many sprues, you've got to be able to locate things quickly and easily. I mean, there's another P and a Q. There's no R on this one. There's only one R. I don't know what R is, but this is again more Merlin stuff, because obviously you've got 2 Merlins and more guns. Well, same guns again, but it's just the way Tamiya are doing it. So this, trust me guys, do this next time you have a large scale kit, or a kit with a lot of sprues. So that's the pelot and some control surfaces. There hasn't been anything other than those pilots, and of all things, because I generally don't do an awful lot with pilots, although I'll have a go with these. I mean, I did kind of okay with the Corsair pilot, so I'll maybe have a go with these guys. There hasn't been any standout mouldings, but there has been a lot of parts that I've noticed, so it could be a case that once all those parts go together, then we've got the well-mannered, hunky-dory looking cockpit that, or whatever part. I mean, Freddie, our man Freddie, he's been building this thing and he's been posting it on Facebook, and some of the pictures he's been posting, this thing just looks amazing when it all starts to get together. There are over 750 parts in this thing, so that's possibly why things don't look so detailed, because they may be playing here, but once all the parts are out, I mean, there's lots of holes on this. This is obviously the cockpit floor. There's lots of holes on there, so there's lots of things going to get fitted to this. So maybe once all the parts are in place, that's when we'll get the enjoyable looking cockpit, the dandy looking cockpit that I'd hoped for. And here comes another jet. Right, sprue G for Gary. This would appear to be the engine. The engine pods with obviously where the bare ass Merlins are going to be. Some bulkheads. Again, each sprue has nothing much to talk about. Unlike the Corsair, where I was effusing like a madman, this all looks quite tame, but as I said, it's probably because once everything goes together, that's when see, here's the cowling covers, or the engine covers, all on separate little beautifully protected trees. If it ain't one, it's the other. 3 o'clock, so the postman's due. Or that was the postman. Again, very, very plain. I think that doesn't help, does it? I mean, as I say, the Corsair, every single part of its outer skin was to one's taste and to one's liking. It was swell, the outer skin of the Corsair, whereas this one is quite seamly. Well, it's not seamly because there are no seams on it. It's quite plain in actual fact, but pardon the pun. So, building up quite a stack of styling here actually. It's underneath the little inset thing that Tamiya always seem to want to give you because it makes it look really posh. We've got the clear parts, and as one would expect, they are, it's like that, what do you call that crystal that ends with an S? Anyway, these could have been made by those people. No distortion whatsoever. I mean, I'm looking at, in fact, I wouldn't even know there's glass or clear perspex or clear styrene in front of my eye, to be honest. Everything is, in fact, actually, I can see better through that than I can without it. Huh. That'd be cool, eh? I'm actually going to the optician this Friday, so maybe just get a couple of Mosquito Canopies. No, okay. Yeah, these are absolutely fantastic, and there's not a lot of them actually. There's the side panels here. One is what would you call it, like a bubble shape, obviously, so that you can stick your head in and see where you're going. So there's the instrumentation, the instrument panels there. I presume there'll be a decal that will go on the back of that. They'll then push into the plastic part, the styrene part that we saw earlier, to make them look very, very realistic. I'm not quite, there does appear to be components here that are in clear. I don't know quite what for. I dare say we'll find out during construction. We have 3 pairs of goggles. I did that with the Corsair pilot actually. You get a set of goggles. If you're having the pilot inside, you know, seated inside the aircraft, you got actual flight goggles. Whereas if you were using the pilot outside, his goggles were moulded in. But I paired them away and stuck on the clear goggles just to, you know, so it's always better. So now we come to the flat stuff, which is obviously the photo etch, the decals, and the paperwork. Now the photo etch, as per Tamiya's usual, is this heavy duty sheet steel that you could line a ship with, more or less. Now there's a reason for that, which I kind of wish they'd separated these reasons, as it were. This particular fret here, which has what looks like some nice grill, oh that's 5 isn't it, which has some cute grill work, and the Sutton harnesses. Now I'll be discarding those because, being steel, you can't anneal it in the same way that you can do with a sheet of brass, so you can't have them looking all haphazardly strewn around the seat, as it were, as if the pilot had just discarded them that way. And I'll be, as I say, eschewing these in favour of Edward Super Fabric. I'm sure Edward do 1/32 Sutton harnesses. I know Radu Brinzen does, because that's what I actually used in the Spitfire way back. The little grommets on the Sutton harness that sort of are quite unique to the Sutton harness, they're actually separate brass, and you actually have to stick them on. So it does make a very realistic harness indeed. So I will, as I say, be replacing those. But this sheet does also include the magnet parts, or the parts for the magnets to attach to. That's actually the noise they make, if you ever notice. They go. So obviously that's why it's on steel. But that's no excuse for this one, which has no parts like that on it. It has some of the instrument panel detail, which again looks fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I just wish, I mean, it really is just like, you know, you can patch, I've got a hole in my Land Rover chassis, I could patch it with this. We have some strut work here as well, which is beauteous and bewitching, the way it's represented, and it just adds that, obviously. little extra bit of realism. Tamiya, as of yet, haven't discovered how to die cut or laser cut because we still have to cut the masks ourselves, but nothing looks terribly complicated there. A sharp knife and a good straight edge shouldn't prove too much of a problem, so I don't think there'll be a need to upgrade to an Edward mask set. And of late I've noticed the Edward masks are slightly on the large side, so we'll go with these to start with anyway. The decals, the Tamiya decals. We have two sheets. One is the stencil data sheet, but a very nice touch is down in this bottom corner here, where we have a map which goes on that little clipboard that I showed you earlier for the Navigator. It's just a nice little touch if you're having a Navigator. I think there's one where he's able to climb up the access ladder. And also the rank insignias. We've got 6 sets of sergeant. I'll start that again. 6 sets of sergeant stripes. 6 sets of sergeant stripes. And some other braiding as well. So you can give your little guys a rank, which is actually superb. Well, look what's just in front of superb. S-U-B-L-I-M-E. Anyway, and I have no idea what these are. These big silver things. They look like kind of tribal vinyl patterns you'd see on a in the Fast and the Furious. I've no idea what they are. And of course the main decal sheet, which as I said earlier, I'll probably be discarding in favour of some masks or higher quality decals. Now this is something I actually find quite strange. I mean, Tamiya are entrusting us to build a 750 part 1/32 scale brand new very expensive kit, yet they don't trust us to paint the tips of the propellers. They give us the little yellow tips as decals. I mean, come on Tamiya, we're not children. Well, maybe some of us are. Well, it depends on how you define you know, mentally or physically, but yeah, very odd. And you get them for both sets of propellers, the sort of the wide paddle type and the wee pointier type. I mean, with a paint call out list on the instruction sheet, it's like, come on guys, we can manage that. If we can manage the rest of the kit, we can manage that. But anyway, that's what they do. So I mean, don't get me wrong, they're beautiful decals. I wouldn't even bother checking to see if they were in register or not, knowing that they would be. But again, just very, very thick. I know they can bed down a wee bit, but depending on it's how I weather my aircraft, and obviously if they're painted on the original aircraft painted outer skin, as it were, they're going to weather the same way as the paint. A decal doesn't take weathering products the same way as the surrounding paint does on a model, even after a coat of matte to level the playing field, as it were. I prefer to weather the paint, not the varnish, if you know what that means. I use these fine pigmented the wash is decanted and evaporated so that I can get to the pigment. I've also bought myself some, which is actually taken as a pack, some artist's pastels, which I'm going to start using to weather the aircraft. So I'm actually physically weathering the paint, not the varnish, and therefore it's very difficult to weather shiny decals. That's why I like to paint them. Anyway, something that was quite interesting I noticed is that Tamiya have already included a couple of correction sheets. Well, one is they're telling you that only one set of photo etched parts and magnets. Only one set of photo etched parts and magnets for engine cowls. Was that one set for one engine? So we can have one covered, although there's going to have to be an engine in there, and one can be uncovered. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. And it's also telling you to apply a thick coat of clear to both inside and outside. This kit is the sort of the I don't know, what did they class it as, the European version, which comes with the clear engine covers so that you can see the engine, which I think is really quite tacky. I know Trumpeter do it. I mean, Trumpeter do the entire fuselage as a sort of a semi-translucent. If it was crystal clear, fine. Although if it was crystal clear, why would you even have it there? But these ones are kind of, it's the same texture, so it's kind of semi-translucent, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having it there. But now they're actually telling you how to make it clearer. Anyway, and we also have this, which is to replace instruction step number 104, which lets you know how many steps there are in the instructions. I think it's the access door. They've obviously made a bit of the boo-boo, and they're telling you how to un-boo-boo it. Speaking of the instruction leaflet, I'm not going to show you every single page because, let's face it, that would just be stupid. It's a book. It is a 51-page booklet with, yes, 105 is the pilots. 104 was in fact, yeah, there's, I suppose I should maybe stick that on there to replace that bit, but it is the outer hatch. But typical Tamiya, nice. Oh, well, that's good for you guys, isn't it? You get a drink at last. You're probably parched. I mean, how long has this been going on? You're probably just like about to keel over. It is an alluring instruction booklet, I suppose. Yes, it does. In their typical Tamiya fashion. That would be a good pub quiz for modelers, wouldn't it? You know, you get the sheet and it'll have little sort of pieces from different manufacturers' instructions, and you have to guess what manufacturer it is from the instruction. I think that would be quite, quite easy actually. So yeah, there we go. That's the Tamiya instruction booklet. Blah blah blah. It's what it is. And as is the normal these days, Tamiya in their big 132nd aircraft series always include these little booklets, which has a little bit about the thing, as well as, more importantly, if you want to do some super detailing, at the back, what is ostensibly a walk around. We've got the cockpit and we've got the Merlin engine, but it's not that you couldn't find anything probably more concise online anyway. But it's nice of Tamiya to do that anyway. And of course the big, this is presumably the one that's on the box cover, the one that they want you to build, I suppose, because they give you this big A3, is that A3? No, that's not even A3, what is that? Because that's not A4. This very big sheet that shows one of the painting diagrams anyway. I don't know that I'll go for that one, but I haven't decided on that yet. So there we go, folks, after, I don't know how many minutes, what is that for? God, I've wasted of your lives. That is the new Tamiya de Havilland Mosquito Facebook Mark 6, excuse me, which is a gratifyingly peachy, pleasant pussycat of a kit. And with that, I will bid you adieu and farewell to you and you and you. And I don't know when this will be completed. I will, because I've got all those Revell kits, and I've got the MiG-29 to do, and the, oh God, I've got so many kits to build between now and the end of my life that I'm thinking of shortening. No, don't even go there. But anyway, cheers everybody. I hope you found that in some way, shape or form to be commendable, gentle, gracious or helpful, as opposed to, well, I hope you found it nice.